6 years ago, I moved to Cotswold and I wasn't sure if I had made the right decision. But now I totally get why people want to live here. So today, I'm showing you why Cotswold is one of Charlotte's most underrated neighborhoods to live in. Let's get into it. The commute argument, 15 to 20 minutes from anywhere. So from the start, you should know that Charlotte is a car city and where you live in the city is important. Meaning you're going to be driving to school, work, church, dinner, Target, pickleball. All of it. When you're choosing a neighborhood, it's not just about whether the homes are beautiful or if the streets feel nice, but you also have to think about whether your daily life feels simple or if you're spending more time in the car than you expected. That's one of the reasons I love Cotswold so much. From here, you're about 10 minutes door to door to uptown, where you have the big banks, major companies, and the financial district. And even with traffic, you're looking at closer to 30 plus minutes on a harder day. For Charlotte, that's a very manageable commute. People around here say Cotswold's about 15 to 20 minutes from almost anywhere you want to be in Charlotte, and that has been true in my experience. East side, west side, dinner plans, errands, school events, you're in a spot that keeps life moving. And keep that in mind when we get to the school later on, because the mix of the central location and the school zoning is a big part of why Cotswold works for so many. Now, compare this to SouthPark, which is wonderful, and for many buyers, it's one of the first areas that they think of when they picture a central Charlotte location. But depending on where you're going, especially if you're heading toward Mint Hill, Matthews, or the east side, that drive can stretch closer to 30 or 35 minutes. It might work if most of your life is south and west, but that's not true for everyone. And then you have Waxhaw, which some buyers look at because of the schools and the price point. There's a lot to love there, but it sits further south, and that commute can be tough if you're driving into Charlotte often. Cotswold gives you a different kind of balance. You still get that close-in Charlotte location, but you also get a neighborhood that feels residential, established, and easy to live in day to day. And location is only the starting point, because what keeps people here long-term is something that you can't find on a map. The community story, why friends keep moving here. One of the things I love most about Cotswold is how much life I live in this general area. My friends, my kids' schools, my church, my grocery store, my coffee spot, it's all right here. That's what Cotswold becomes once you live here long enough. When we first moved here 6 years ago, I'll be honest, it felt a little too grown up for us. We were 24 and a lot of our friends were in South End doing the young professional thing. There were a few months where we wondered if we had landed in the right spot. Now it's the neighborhood that so many people we know want to be in. And the community is a huge part of that. The schools, the shopping, and the places we go every week are all within about 10 to 15 minutes. So practically speaking, even if you bought in another part of Charlotte, there's a good chance that you'll still end up driving over here on the weekends or weekday for the schools. For families with young kids, there's also something here that doesn't always show up when you're just searching online. Within about a 5-minute drive, there are at least 4 preschools, and some of them offer part-time options, which can make a big difference if you and your spouse both work, but your schedules have some flexibility. Since my husband and I both have flexibility, we pick our kids up around 1 o'clock, bring them home, and have a babysitter help in the afternoon. So you're not automatically locked into a full-time daycare setup if that's not what works best for your family. And later when we talk about the teardown activity in Cotswold, this will start to make even more sense. The types of families moving here are a big reason that the demand keeps building. For us, 2 kids in preschool, rents around $1,200 a month, and then when you add an afternoon babysitter, you're looking at around $2,000 to $2,500 total. If you've looked at childcare costs in the other major cities, you know that this number is actually pretty doable. And that's the kind of detail that's hard to figure out before you move somewhere. It's something that you don't learn on Google, but really just by living here, which brings us right into what it costs to buy in Cotswold. Housing and prices, what it actually costs. When it comes to price, Cotswold is not the kind of neighborhood where I want to gloss over the numbers. If you're looking at Cotswold, especially the area around Randolph and Sharon Amity that most people think of as the heart of the neighborhood, it's not cheap. For an updated 3-bedroom home with more than 2,000 square feet, you're starting in the mid $900,000s. And depending on the house, the lot, and the updates, it can go higher from there. That's the entry point for what Cotswold has become, and there's a real reason behind it. But right across the street, you have a larger neighborhood called Stonehaven. You still get the access, the location, and the same Cotswold region feel, but the price point is a little bit more approachable. In Stonehaven, you can still find homes in the low to mid 600,000s, which can be a better fit if Cotswold feels like a stretch right now. And when we cover the trade-offs later, you'll see the decision comes down to what you're getting for the number and what may still be missing for your day-to-day life. Now, builders and buyers have started to understand the value of these lot sizes, and that affects the entire neighborhood. Every renovated home, every updated 3-bedroom, and every older home with a strong lot gets pulled into that same pricing conversation. So even if a property isn't being torn down or rebuilt, the land value around it is still important. And the school zoning plays a big role here too, because the pricing in this area makes more sense once you understand where Cotswold is zoned. And before we get into that, if you're searching for the right neighborhood fit in Charlotte and want a perspective from someone who lives here, I'd love to help you think it through. Whether you're relocating for work, moving your family, or trying to figure out which part of the city fits your life best, you can reach out through the link in my bio. Now, let's talk about the schools. The school's story. This is one of those things that buyers don't always notice until they start comparing the neighborhoods. Cotswold gives you close access to Uptown and Myers Park High School zoning, and in Charlotte, that combo is pretty hard to find. You're close enough to the financial district for the commute to make sense, but you're also in a school zone that so many families are looking for. And it's important when you're buying here because school zoning is a big part of how people think about value. If you're moving to Charlotte with kids, or even if kids might be part of your life in the next 5 to 10 years, this is something that you'll want to understand before you buy. School zoning can affect price, demand, and how a neighborhood holds up over time. Cotswold is zoned for Myers Park High School, which is one of the schools Charlotte families ask about often. And that reputation carries real weight in the housing market. Most close-in neighborhoods don't give you this exact school picture, with some neighborhoods in this zoning not also keeping you this close. That's a big reason that Cotswold continues to get so much attention from buyers who know Charlotte well. I do want to be honest, school zoning can change. It's not promised forever, and Charlotte is growing fast. So you always want to verify the current boundaries before making a decision. But right now, this zoning is part of why families keep coming back to Cotswold when they're comparing it to other areas where the school path feels less clear. For a lot of buyers, moving is about where life may take them 5, 10, or even 15 years from now. And that long-term mindset is a big part of why the pricing here has support. The teardown story, reshaping the neighborhood. A lot of buyers come into a home and focus on the dated bathrooms, the older kitchen, or the fact that it hasn't been touched in years. But in Cotswold, builders and long-term buyers are often looking at something else first. They're looking at the land, and that's a huge part of what has been driving prices here. The lots in Cotswold are big, especially in Sherwood Forest, which is the part of Cotswold where I live. Most of the original homes here were built in the 1950s and 60s, so you have these classic brick ranches sitting on lots that can support much larger new homes. Builders have noticed it, so they've been buying some of these older homes, tearing them down and building custom homes that would cost more to do in places like Myers Park or Eastover. The lot size is what makes the math work, and that's important even if you're not buying a teardown or planning to build something new. When those new homes go up, they affect the value of the homes around them. A year ago, teardown lots in this area were selling in the mid 600,000s. Today, some of those same types of lots are selling in the low to mid 800,000s. That kind of movement changes the whole neighborhood. Even homes that aren't being redeveloped can benefit because the value of their land underneath them keeps getting stronger. A builder could take one of those lots and build a 6,000 square foot custom home for around $3 million, and compared to other close-in Charlotte neighborhoods, that can feel like a strong value. When that kind of buyer starts looking here, it tells you something about where this neighborhood is going. And this connects right into who Cotswold is right for, because the teardown activity helps explain whether your budget, your timeline, and your long-term plans fit this neighborhood. Now, people have been saying Sherwood Forest is becoming the new Lansdowne. Lansdowne went through a very similar change with older homes, strong lot sizes, and more builder interest over time. Sherwood Forest is starting to follow that same path. After everything we've covered so far, it's time to talk about who should be looking here and who may be better off somewhere else. Who Cotswold is right for. So if you're thinking about who Cotswold is right for, I think it makes the most sense for families with young kids who want life to feel pretty simple day to day. You have preschool options close by, a strong sense of community, and Myers Park High School zoning for the years ahead. It also works well if you want a short commute to Uptown, but you're not trying to pay the full Myers Park or Eastover priced homes. And if you're a buyer in the mid 900,000s or above, Cotswold gives you an established Charlotte neighborhood where the land value is still a big part of the story. The location is important if your life pulls you in different directions. Maybe you're driving east toward Matthews some days, west toward the airport on others, and into Uptown regularly for work. That kind of flexibility makes everyday life feel easier, and it's hard to see that from a listing online. If long-term value is part of your decision, the teardown activity and the school zoning are both important pieces to understand. Cotswold isn't a neighborhood that's trying to figure out what it wants to become. In my opinion, that's why so many people are starting to pay closer attention. It already has the location, the schools, the lot sizes, and the community. But the honest con, we need a brewery. Cotswold has so much going for it, but there's one thing that I wish we had. Eddie's Place has been a neighborhood staple for as long as anyone can remember. It's the kind of spot where you go for breakfast on a Saturday, and it just becomes part of your weekend routine. And day to day, Cotswold is so easy. You have Harris Teeter and Publix right across the street from each other, which is such a gift when you're running errands, picking up groceries, or just trying to get dinner on the table. The food scene is solid, and for most of your daily needs, you're well taken care of. But the one thing I hear people bring up all the time is that Cotswold needs a great brewery. Not just any brewery, but the kind of neighborhood spot where you can just walk over on a Friday night, bring the kids, see your friends, and run into half the people you know. Sycamore Brewing was supposed to be that for Cotswold. They already had broken ground, the building had started, and people were excited about what that could bring to the neighborhood. Then the founder got caught up in some serious criminal charges and the project stopped. So now that space is still sitting there, and I do think that someone will come in and do something with it eventually, because that's the one thing that feels missing right now. The neighborhood has the schools, the location, the grocery stores, the restaurants, and the community. It just needs that easy, walkable gathering spot where people can come together. Cotswold doesn't always get talked about the same way that Myers Park and SouthPark do. But once you live here, you understand why people love it. You get the location, the schools, the community, the grocery stores, the restaurants, and that everyday ease that makes life feel simple. If you're thinking about a move to Cotswold and want to understand what's available, I'd love to help you walk through it. You can email me at gracie.griffin@compass.com, and I can put together a current snapshot of what's on the market. And if you're still deciding whether Charlotte is the right move as a whole, I've linked a video here on the unexpected pros and cons of moving to this city. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.